Hello, my name is Atul Pandey and I'm the founder of Eternity Solutions. Thank you for taking the time to join this podcast where we share with you the approach which we take, which we call as the purpose native approach, and how it can help you in creating a new chapter of growth for your organization. This podcast is targeted towards the founders and the CXOs of small to mid-size organizations, but it can also help a business leader in a large size organization as well. Today, what I'm going to talk about are two spectrums of growth, which I see leaders follow, and the opportunity for the leaders to tap a much greater level of growth if they embrace a more purpose-centric or purpose-native approach. Let me give you some insights about this spectrum so that you can relate to it. When we talk about creating growth, it needs a few things to be put in place. Of course, aspiration to grow is the starting one, but I'm assuming that that's something which everyone aspires to do so. I've not found a single founder or a CXO or a business leader whose number one priority is not to drive growth. Anything and everything which is connected to an opportunity at hand, connected to hard numbers, dollars, opening new accounts, always gets the first order of priority for every CXO, to the extent that everything else becomes secondary. And this is where the first order of problem sets in. Because aspiration alone about growing doesn't bring growth. Because when we talk about the opportunities, the pipeline, hard dollars, new accounts, relationships, which are the select few tangible metrics which everyone is after, unfortunately are all lagging indicators. Just by wishing them, they don't happen. But they happen when you really work on things which are connected to bringing an opportunity or any of those other indicators. And a lot of time, exact time, goes in terms of thinking, planning. There's a lot of focus on how to do it. Now, this is where I see leaders at the two ends of the spectrum. Some take some time to build a kind of an offering. They hear that specialization is important, and therefore they start to build a view of where they are good at and try to lead with telling the world and telling the market and telling their prospective clients what they are good at. This may lead to building up a catalog of offerings pertaining to the technologies which are there in demand. Whether it is data analytics, whether it is cloud, whether it is... Now these days everyone is talking about AI and ML. Some people are talking about other areas of strengths, whether it is product engineering, whether it is product development, and so on. So some founders and some CXOs and some business leaders, they focus on presenting their story through how they are trying to make a difference in these spaces. And they do so by showcasing some of their unique offerings in terms of platforms, in terms of solutions, in terms of their ways of engagement, covering, different life cycle and so on. On the other hand, there are leaders who focus more on just serving the need. It doesn't really matter where that need is coming from, but as long as there is a need for a technology, they are ready to serve it. And this is what we call in our industry the staff augmentation business, where you are bringing all the capabilities under an umbrella and saying that I have it. If you have a need, come and talk to me. I'll provide you with the needed capacity and I will serve it. Now, both these ends of the spectrum have some business for these companies. So it's not that there is zero business or there is not, a pipeline which they can build further on. The problem is when we talk about growth, it cannot be totally opportunistic. It cannot be totally a game of chance and living a reality every single day. The market indeed is such that it is dynamic and there are demand shifts which are happening in the business every single day. But the central question is that how can you engineer a growth based on what you have and based on where you want to go. So some people, some leaders sense opportunities. Some people sense a direction of growth. They put some time in terms of saying, okay, we have a niche offering, but now we will offer it using AI. So everyone suddenly is becoming an AI first company, and there is nothing wrong about it. So if there is a leading vector of demand, that itself will prioritize everyone. But when we talk about creating growth, it is about also stepping up your chance to win. Now, in a crowded marketplace where everyone is becoming an AI first company and many of them are operating in the same niche, can you claim to be differentiated enough just because you are focused on a niche? Many a times founders are told who are in this spectrum, lead with solution, lead with something which is cutting edge, which is differentiated. Guess what? There are many others who can claim the same. The other end of the spectrum is if you're working as a provider for a technology partner, you are at the mercy of that technology partner because you're not the only one, especially if it is a growing technology. If it is a technology which is highly adopted by the clients, whether it is in cloud, whether it is in large package spaces, and I can name, but names are not that important. But if there is a very upscale technology or very highly adopted technology ecosystem, and you are one of the providers of that technology in a given domain, you are differentiated to some extent. But then for that technology partner, you are one of the many. Similarly, if the client doesn't know you, you are further down in the visibility spectrum when it comes to attracting new opportunities. So the question really becomes that when you are thinking about growth, how do you register that you will make a difference? You have something, or you are better than others. You are differentiated. Now, where is your differentiation? And again, depending upon the two spectrums which I spoke about earlier, the people who are leading with solutions, people who are leading with platforms, they will say, oh, I have a platform, oh, I have this solution. It can drive so much of benefit, but that's your data point. Client doesn't have the first-hand data point of your performance, and you also cannot prove performance better than others based on what you have delivered. On the other hand, the people on the other end of the spectrum who are only offering capabilities, of course, there is some business for them. And if it is a hot technology, chances are that they will continue to have a pipeline of business and opportunity, which can feel pretty cozy for some time. But then in a highly competitive marketplace, as the wallet size becomes much more scrutinized by the clients, and as the rise of AI and ML promise, especially the hype part right now, which is what we are going through, goes up and up, guess what? The pricing pressure starts to come down into the staffing and the opportunities which, as a staff augmentation company, you are looking to position yourself. So no longer you saying that I have a bench or I have a capability strength of so many people can be differentiated enough unless there are some very high pockets of human-based demand. Even so, the greater the size, clients are not just looking for bodies over there. They are really looking to know you better, looking to understand how would you perform. So bottom line is that when we think about growth, one of the biggest central parameters which is missing is a communication gap of your differentiation, a communication gap of how effective you would be if you are entrusted with an opportunity. Now, how do you solve that? And that's what the purpose native approach is designed to do. At one end of the spectrum, you may have a lot of projected differentiation, but then how do you prove it through your execution? So you may have a good thought, you may have a good solution, but how do you know that how it gets executed and how does it deliver results for the clients? Where is that data? Where is that execution which proves your effectiveness? On the other hand, if you are a staff aug company or a majority of your business comes via staff aug, and again, we are not looking at it from the lens of which one is better, which one is not. They both are needed in our business. But if you have a higher portion of your business coming as a staff aug, how are you communicating to your clients that you are really up for a bigger game for them? And tomorrow, if they start to cut and downsize their manual, human-based technology capacity requirements, you are not on the chopping block. If something is not happening right in their environment, you are not the first one, or somewhere down the line in the order of, even though you may not be the first one, doesn't matter. When it happens, it's not pretty, it's ugly. Suddenly you can, lose 20, 30, 40%, or maybe sometimes even an entire portfolio based on some of these situations. So you also need to prove that you are creating value, not just serving a project or delivering a project to the specifications. It's not sufficient. So at Eternity, when we talk about creating growth in tech services, we lead it with a sense of purpose. We lead it with a sense of what really matters for the clients. And not just that, how do you prove it that you have what it takes to deliver and you can do it better than anyone else? So it is about establishing a solid credibility with the clients about what you say that you would do and what you do matches to what you say. If you're interested in learning more about this approach and start writing a new chapter of growth, start an engagement with us and let us script it together. And it starts with you. Our approach is not traditional coaching, training, and enablement. They are very ineffective when it comes to creating this, matching these two ends of the spectrum. No amount of package certification or a technology certification will make you ready for what I'm talking about. Because this is not about capabilities. This is about thinking first. This is about understanding first. And in most of the traditional approaches, or frankly, I can say none of the current approaches are addressing the thinking space, how to bring it home for you, not give you a solution. There are many who can say, you give me your data and I'll tell you what you need to do. We don't believe in that. We are not after what data you have of your performance, but how do you think about your performance a little differently, and how do you induce a higher order of performance? So it's not about putting more data in a system, but it is about first taking a back seat, giving yourself an opportunity to think right before you do right. So start an engagement and we'd be happy to show you more. Thank you for taking the time. In the next podcast, we will cover some of additional nuances. So stay tuned and we'll connect again very soon. Thank you.